professionalvmware.com, vBrownbag US edition. Today is Wednesday, August 12th, 2015. It is just after 7:30 p.m. Central, which is the normal time of our podcast. If you'd like to attend live, or more like a webinar, as Jason Langer likes to say. But our guest tonight is Hersey Cartwright. His Twitter handle is @HerseyC. You can see my screen. Yeah, I totally messed it up. He's not talking about CF Engine. He is actually going to be talking about VCP6, the Data Center Virtualization Blueprint, which is about storage. And he's covering sections 3.1 to 3.4 and a few other things. Before I turn things over to Hersey, I wanted to just let everyone know that if you're new around here, our hashtag on Twitter is #vBrownbag. Our Twitter handle, crazily enough, is #vBrownbag. So feel free to hop in anytime. People are always on Twitter, and we'll respond to the hashtag, etc. So coming up at the end of August this month, 2015, is VMworld US in San Francisco. We've got a whole bunch of events that the vBrownbag crew and the VM Underground crew and Faustivities and vRockstar out of Europe, pretty much all of the big virtualization conference groups that do things every year, we've all kind of put our brains together and come up with some really great stuff. So Sunday, August 30th, City View Metreon. If you're new to downtown San Francisco, the same building as the City Target. It's across from, what is that, Hersey, like Moscone West, where the registration usually is? Is that west?
Yeah, I don't know if it's west, but yeah, where the registration usually is, it's right across the street from that.
Right. Pretty much can't miss it. Yeah, so up at the top, City View, take the elevator up out of the little City Target Mall area. From 1 to, actually I said to 4 p.m. That's wrong. Actually, I said 3 p.m. here. I am just totally performing suboptimally today. Yeah, so it starts at 1, it ends at 4 p.m. We're going to have a total of 6 panels that will run 3 at a time, side by side. Each panel will have about 6 subject matter experts and a moderator, and we're going to be covering sessions or topics such as hyperconvergence, storage, the all-flash kind, the Tupperware kind, etc., as well as things like careers and podcasts. We've got a lot of really cool people lined up on the careers and podcast panel, and I think that one's going to be pretty cool, and not only because I'm going to be moderating it, but we're also going to get a recruiter there, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of ask some honest questions about negotiations and resume preparation, etc. So it's not all about virtualization. Sometimes it's about just making your career better in general. And then that night, VM Underground, 8 p.m., big party. If you were there last year, it was awesome. There was like 1,300 people there, some such. It's going to be fantastic. View of downtown San Francisco, gorgeous. We are not doing tickets this year, which is awesome. So just show up. City View people will manage head count and fire codes and such, and you'll get in when you get in. So pretty stoked about that. And then the rest of the week, we're going to be doing the vBrownbag Tech Talk, like we've done at a bunch of the VMworlds here and in Europe. Probably in the community lounge is my guess. So yeah. Anyhow, we're going to be all around, so just come up and talk to us if you're at VMworld this year. So again, I've talked too much. I'm like over my word limit, Hersey. When you just like just speak or even hear too many words, and you're like, I'm done. I'm done with the words today. So anyhow, I'm going to turn it over to Hersey now. He's at HerseyC on Twitter, and if you have any questions, tweet the vBrownbag hashtag or the account, or pop a message here in the chat, and I will field them for Hersey. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Damien.
Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, so you want to just turn control over to me?
Yep, I'm doing your presenter right now.
Cool.
There you go.
Thank you. All right, so can you see my screen?
Indeed.
All right, just real quick, I'm Hersey Cartwright, VCDX number 128, just over a year now. Also a vExpert. My website is www.vhersey.com, and as Damien said, Twitter at HerseyC. My book that I authored, it's been 2 years ago now, is also up there. You know, check it out, buy it, so I can get like a $40 check every quarter.
Man,
and tonight,
talk about return on investment.
yeah, no.
I think it's more profitable to work for Foxconn at that rate.
Probably. So, you know, we're talking about the VCP6 tonight, specifically Section 3, which is the storage section. So a few study guides out there. They had some momentum in the beginning when the beta exam was released. Not quite as many updates here lately, from myself included, but still some good info if you're working towards studying for the VCP6, either the Delta or the full exam. Tonight I'm going to look at sections 3.1, 3.3, and 3.4 kind of specifically. And really, I had a kind of a hard time putting things together for this. I did a vBrownbag a couple months ago when we were running through the VCA series, and the blueprint from the VCP6 for the VCA and the VCP6, the regular VCP, it's really not that different. Most of the sections are pretty much the same. They don't quite dive as deep. But anyway, if you've studied for that or taken one of the VCA exams, you know, you're already partway there. So there is some you know, theory type stuff that you should probably know. Just you know, the first thing in the first task in section 3.1 is just being able to identify the devices and the naming conventions. You know, you have the SCSI inquiry device identifiers that are unique and persistent across reboots, the path-based identifiers, which are not unique, nor are they persistent across reboots for a host. You know, this is how the adapter is identified, the path for the adapter is identified. Kind of know this. You likely see it on the exam. If you've ever taken a VCP exam before, you know, you've likely seen a question that asks you something about this. The red letters here represent a number. The V is the HBA number, X is the channel, Y is the target, and then Z is the LUN. There's a legacy identifier that's generated by each ESXi host, and then a device display name that can be modified, and I'll show you how we can modify that in the lab. And then for fiber channel, the worldwide node names and worldwide port names, and then the IQN. The IQN is for iSCSI. The IQN is made up of the year and month that the top-level domain or the domain was registered for a company, and then followed by a unique ID. So for VMware, I think it's, I don't remember what year and month it is, but then .com.vmware, and then a unique ID that represents the host. A couple more slides, don't want to slide it too much tonight. Virtual machine file system, VMFS. So in ESXi 6.0, you cannot even create a VMFS 3 data store, completely depreciated. Now, you can still present a VMFS 3 data store to an ESXi 6.0 host and then upgrade it. From VMFS 3 to VMFS 5, that upgrade can be done online. It's non-production impacting, only takes a couple of seconds. The new VMFS 5, which was introduced in vSphere 5, is still the VMFS version. It has a universal 1 meg file system block size, So that's a little bit different from VMFS 3 back in the earlier versions where you could actually select a block size. Now, when you upgrade to VMFS 5 from VMFS 3, if it had a block size other than 1 meg, it will maintain that block size. The only way to change the block size is to migrate off the VMFS 3, blow the data store away, recreate the data store as a VMFS 5 data store. VMFS 5 supports devices and disks greater than 2 terabytes, so you can have an up to 64 terabyte device and 62 terabyte virtual disk or VMDK file. It uses the GPT partition table. If you create a VMFS data store, it's created with the GPT format. If you upgrade a VMFS 3 data store to VMFS 5, it maintains its MBR until it's expanded beyond 2 terabytes, at which time it's then upgraded to GPT. Again, supports online upgrade, online expand, online extend, and then up to 256 VMFS data stores per host. So NFS, so that changed a little bit with 6. With 6 now, we have NFS both version 3 and version 4.1. There's clients included for both. You should only present a data store or access a data store with one version or the other. So don't have a data store that you present and access it with both NFS version 3 from some host and NFS version 4.1 from other hosts. There is no upgrade from NFS version 3 to 4.1. It's a migration only, so you'd have to create a new NFS version 4.1 data store and then storage vMotion your VMs off of it. A host can have both NFS 3 and NFS 4.1 data stores mounted at the same time. Just you can't go different protocols to the same data store. An NFS data store can be mounted read-only, which is pretty handy for like ISO repositories. With NFS and 6.0, vMotion, HA, DRS, fault tolerance are supported. FT is not supported on NFS 4.1. Virtual disk on NFS data stores are thin provisioned by default unless hardware acceleration support and reserve space operation is used. NFS 4.1 does not support hardware acceleration. So just a little bit, NFS 4.1 supports multipathing, non-root user access. It does not support fault tolerance, storage DRS, storage IO control, SRM, or vBalls, nor does it support NFS hardware acceleration. Again, shares should be exported as either version 3 or version 4.1, not both. Chris Wall did a really good overview of NFS version 4.1 on his blog, wallnetwork.com. If you go to his blog and search NFS v4, you'll find the write-up he did. So that's it with slides. Good, because I want to play. So just real quick, the section we're covering, section 3, we're going to talk a lot about Objective 3.1, a lot about Objective 3.3. This is kind of the, or I would say this would be the Bible for studying for the storage section of the VCP6 exam. Just about everything you can do with storage, or everything you can do with storage on ESXi, is in this document. On my study guide, as I walked through the different sections, I actually provided the links to the pages where you can find the information. So we'll jump into kind of the lab. I'm going to do a couple of things, just bump around the paths. So from the host, manage storage. This is where you can find your storage adapters. I've already enabled the iSCSI software adapter because I'm using it. If it wasn't already enabled, this plus sign would be there. You click on that and you can add either a iSCSI software adapter or an FCOE adapter if you have an adapter that supports it in there. This is also where you can rescan your storage. You can rescan for new devices and new VMFS volumes, or you can rescan just for new devices. And then when you select the adapter down here, you'll get to see all the details of the adapter. So for the software iSCSI adapter, another thing that's on the blueprint is just the general setup and authentication. So there's the IQN. Again, it's that IQN followed by the month and date the domain was registered for the company, and then the top-level domain, the domain name, and then the unique identifier for the host. And then you can also add an alias here if you wanted to. Then for authentication, so this supports, iSCSI supports chat. There's a couple of different methods for using chat, and for the exam, understand what they are. Unidirectional if required by target, unidirectional unless prohibited by target, use unidirectional or use bidirectional. My iSCSI Datastores are set up for unidirectional chat, and I'm not using an initiator name. I'm using a username and then a password. You can also use incoming chat, and that's where the target authenticates. The initiator authenticates the target. In this case, the target authenticates the initiator. So when I log into the iSCSI device, I am the initiator, and the target's going to authenticate me based on this chat that I've provided. And then the incoming chat credentials, that's going back the other way, and that would be set up if you were setting up bidirectional chat. So devices for block storage, whether it's iSCSI or Fiber Channel or FCOE, this shows you the different devices that have been discovered. This device name here can be customized, so you can actually set this to whatever you want, just to make it easily to identify. The NAA name of the device cannot be changed, and we gotta wait for that to update. So this is the unique identifier here, and some other information about it, and then the multipathing, the path selection policy currently set to fixed and a preferred path. So we're going to look at multipathing in just a second. With VMFS, we talked about, unfortunately I can't present a VMFS 3 data store to upgrade, but you can upgrade them if they were presented online, and that would be done from here. Is what I can do while this is online is I can increase the size of this data store. So I can, I've already, on my storage device, I've already added some storage to the LUN that's backing this data store, and that's this one right here. And it's expandable. That means there's more space on the device that the data store can be expanded into. You just tell it, I want to expand into the remaining free space. And then it'll expand that data store from its current 30 gig to 40 gig. You can also expand data stores by adding extents. So if they're not expandable, I can actually just take this 10 gig, this other 10 gig LUN that I have, and span the data store across those LUNs. Not typically a good thing to do, just because you don't know where the data is going. You don't know what this LUN has backing it, so it can be kind of unpredictable as far as performance and whatnot goes. But if you have maybe an older array where it doesn't allow you to resize your LUNs online or what have you, this does give you a way that you can expand across multiple LUNs. So it's going to take that iSCSI data store 1 and now expand it from its 40 gig to 50 gig, or nearly 50 gig. So this will show you the different capabilities of that data store, and here's where you can enable storage I/O control. I'm not going to get real deep into storage I/O control or data store clusters or any of that tonight, but this is where you can turn it on. So what I did want to do though is go through the multipathing. So there's 3 different native policies, fixed, round robin, and most recently used. Again, for the VCP exam, I would understand what each of those are. Fixed it's always going to use its preferred path as long as the preferred path is available. If the preferred path fails, then it will fail over to another available path. But then if the preferred path comes back online, it'll fail back. Most recently used, basically that's going to always use the same path or the last path that was used unless that path fails. If that path fails, it'll switch to another path. The difference is between most recently used and fixed is if the path comes back online, it will not switch back to the original path. And then round robins through the available paths. So all paths are actively processing I/O. Sends I/O down one path, then round robins to the next path, and then so on and so on. Wanted to kind of go off the VCP direct blueprint real quick and just look at some of the ESXi CLI commands for like multipathing and the storage devices. So to list all the available block devices, you can do that from ESXi CLI. And from here, you can see all of the block devices and their unique name, their display name, what type of device it is, what multipathing plugin it's using. In this case, it's using the native multipathing plugin. Any information it was able to discover about the device. Then this is that legacy name that's unique. And you'll see this for all the devices. So this is a local disk that I have in there, SSD drive. And you'll see some, the information about that. Now for the multipathing, so multipathing works from, there's a couple of different things that's part of the native multipathing. One is the storage array type plugin, SATP. So these are the default SATPs that are installed, and basically there's a set of claim rules, and if you work towards the VCAP or the VCIX or whatever they're going to call them in the future, you can dig into the claim rule stuff. But there's claim rules that identify based on some of this information that it gets back from the device, which SATP plugin to use. And then based on the SATP plugin, it determines what default PSP to use. And you can view all the PSPs that are available or the path selection policies. And there's the 3 native ones that we've already talked about, MRU, round robin, and fixed. Now, so what you can also do from here is you can set a default path selection policy for an SATP. So right now, my Synology disks are using the VMware SATP Alua array type policy. So what I can do is I can set the default to round robin. So now that's not going to change it here. That's going to change it for any new paths that are discovered. To change the path selection policy for an already discovered path, you can edit the multipathing and just change it. I don't know that this is going to work, but we'll try it. Oh, it did, maybe. Yep, so there we go. So now, oh, nope. Yeah, it did, all right. So now you'll see that the paths are all active, and it can process I/O across both paths. And if I go back to here and look at the storage array type, you'll see that for that storage array type, the default PSP has now been upgraded or updated so that any new paths will get shown or will have the PSP automatically set to round robin. So NFS, as far as data stores go, if you know it hasn't changed a whole lot with for NFS version 3. We can go to the host. One thing they did do, and I only have one host in my cluster right now, but they did make it so, oh no, yeah, they did make it so that you can add, you can mount NFS data stores to multiple hosts at the same time, which is handy. When you select create an NFS data store, it lets you choose between NFS 3 and NFS 4.1. You'll name the data store, and this one's going to be NFS data store. Give it the path to the export from your NFS server, and then the NFS server address. And if you wanted to mount this as read-only, you would select that there. So that's mounting a NFS 4.1, I mean an NFS 3 data store, and in a second that should show up in there. I think I can see web client, there we go. Now if I, to mount an NFS 4.1 data store, if you're going to use Kerberos to authenticate and not have to put root access on, there's a configuration option that has to be set in the authentication services. So there's really two things that have to be done. One, the ESXi host has to be a member of Active Directory. So you join it to Active Directory. And then you have to add your NFS credentials. And my NFS credentials are now I spent about 20 minutes today trying to get a Windows server to serve NFS 4.1 to my environment using the authentication, and I could not get it to work. I was hoping to get a little more time to mess with it, but I didn't. But if it was working, when you add your NFS data store, you would do NFS 4.1, give it a data store name, give it a folder, just like, and then a address for the NAS, and then if I can get it to mount an NFS 4.1, but I can't get it to use the authentication It just fails. I get some errors in the VM kernel about authentication failing, and I haven't been able to figure it out yet. But that's the way you would mount NFS 4.1, and if all the stars align correctly, it'll work. It's not going to work right now because the stars are not aligning correctly. And there's my error. And if we go to the VM kernel log, and it's got something to do with the authentication or the permissions on the NFS share. Not really sure yet, but if anybody out there might know what I'm doing wrong, speak up, raise your hand, chat, whatever. So another thing I just wanted to touch on is the data store tagging. So you can assign a tag to a data store, and I've already created an NFS tag that's in my storage category, and I can assign that to this data store. So now there's a storage policy that has a tag-based rule in it to say if this data store has this tag, then it's part of this policy. There can also be rules based on data services. So like if the VASA provider has, provides information about services that are available, you can add rules based on those services. So like vSAN and vVols, you can create those rules just based on those services. And then what you can do is when you create a new VM, you can select the storage policy, and it'll show you the devices that have been tagged compatible with that policy. So by default, nothing, NFS, the two NFS Datastores I tagged. Now, so if I wanted to do like a tag for iSCSI, so I can just assign a tag. We're going to create a new tag called and this is just in the storage category I already have. And now I can go back to my storage policies, create a new policy, based on that tag. And there it shows that that is compatible with that. So now if I go and create a new VM, when I get to the storage, I can select my policy, and it's going to show me the data stores that are compatible with that policy. It still lets me select another data store, and I can actually go ahead and create it here. Just going to do all the defaults. But here it's going to show me that it's not compliant with that storage policy. So the storage policy that I selected for this VM was the iSCSI policy. I put it on NFS storage, so it's showing it non-compliant. So if we migrate this to compliant storage, it will fix that. Just a couple of things on ESX top, especially while that is going. So you can look at the iSCSI adapter here in ESX top, and that's just ESX top and then D for your devices, and that'll show you or D for the adapters, and that'll show you all your adapters. And you can see the reads and the writes happening on that storage. These three right here are pretty important. This is where you can figure out your latency and is very helpful in troubleshooting. You have your kernel average latency, your device average latency. So this is from the guest to the VM kernel, and then this is from the VM kernel to the device, the latency, and then this is the total latency of these two, of the device and kernel average. Your kernel average latency should always be like very, very, very low. Your device average latency, depending on what type of storage, throughput, all that good stuff, connectivity, this can vary. If it's over, well, it really kind of depends on your workload and your SLA. But if this starts getting into the couple of few milliseconds, then you can kind of start looking at, there may be some issues, or you may experience some performance issues. While we're in ESX top, there's a couple other storage-based counters. So this shows you the devices, and this shows you all your storage devices and their activity for reads and writes. This is your IOPS, so this is your total, this is your read IOPS, this is your write IOPS. And then the megabytes read and megabytes written. If they're block devices, it'll show you the latency. For the NFS devices, your latency is really done more on the network as opposed to the devices. And then you have your virtual disk. So this is your virtual disk for your VMs. And again, for each of the VMs, you can see the reads, writes, the read latency and write latency. That storage you mentioned is almost done. Once that's done, when we check the compliance here, since we're putting it on compliant storage, that'll update. Any questions or any thoughts or anything anybody has questions about for the VCP exam for the storage sections? Damien, are you there?
Indeed I am. Sorry, it's taking me a second to unlock the phone and take the mute away. So far I'm not seeing any questions within the webinar itself. Let me see if I missed anything anywhere else. No questions. That means you did a really good job, Hersey.
Yeah, right. So, you want to just open the mics up, and if anybody wants to kind of chat for a few minutes, specific to the VCP6 and storage, I don't.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions at all? We can unmute. We can just chat openly. Don't be afraid. Just let me know. I don't want to unmute everybody all at once, just in case somebody's doing something that it's probably not kind of broadcast. You know how folks are, man. Been working in a corporate environment for over half my life, and people still don't know what mute means. Oh man. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Yeah. You know, I was also going to add, Hersey, that this stuff, well, it's important. This really hasn't changed a whole lot in a lot of years, you know.
It has, and I mean, we have a couple of new, you know, 4.1, NFS 4.1 new feature. Not a lot of arrays out there supporting it, right? So yeah, it's great to have it. Not a whole lot of good to a whole lot of people. vVols, you know, there's been a lot on that, cool stuff. Still not a whole lot of support from the array side. That there is more now than there was. You know, vSAN, you know, that's been around for a while. Some pretty significant improvements with 6.0, but you know, it's.
Is that within section 3 or another section?
So that's in another section, and I don't have the reason why I wasn't going to do that tonight because I don't have the lab set up for it. I just ran out of time today.
Oh. I do have a question from Joseph, and that question is, realistically, are people using data stores and VMDKs that are more than 2 terabytes?
Yes.
Okay.
All the time. I mean, so previous to you know, it expanding beyond that 2 terabyte limit, you know, is what we do is create a bunch of 2 or almost 2 terabyte VMDKs, right, on different LUNs, and then use some kind of logical volume manager to span all that, and that's just messy, right? I mean, there's a lot of complexity there, a lot of things that can go wrong. You know, there's lots of file servers, there's lots of databases out there that for sure are above 2 terabytes, and it's handy now to be able to put them on a single VMDK or a single volume.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope that's helpful, Joseph. Let's see. That is it so far. Cool. Alrighty. Well, looks like we're probably coming to a close. You're scheduled again next Wednesday, the 19th, right, Hersey?
I am, and I'll have the vSAN stuff up then, and we'll mess with that.
Cool. Cool. Alrighty. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Again, if you're going to VMworld US, feel free to come by CityView Sunday afternoon or the community space the rest of the week and say hello to the vBrownbag folks. Many of the people that present on a weekly basis also attend VMworld and like to hang out in those areas. So you could not only meet vBrownbag people, you could also meet a lot of your favorite people within the community. So
I'll be there.
Thanks. Yeah, Hersey will be there for sure. Buy him a beer if he's helped you. There you go, Hersey. I just got you set for like the next month. All right, everyone. Thank you very much, and have a good night. Bye.
All right, thanks.